look at that. Have you ever seen so much time on the clock or something like that? And you were like, no.
Welcome to Book Club.
Except instead of books, it's games.
Oh, and instead of a club, there's us two.
But the rest of the idea is 100% the same.
As every fortnight, we play one game solidly.
Then come here to talk about it.
And we want you to do the same.
All the games are retro.
Most of them are SEGA.
Some of them we've never played.
Or, we've just forgotten we've played them.
Because we're old.
Because we're old!
Because we're old.
Because we're old.
The Book Club has one central theme.
We play retro games for their quality.
Games that deserve to still be played.
There are some bonus old man memories to be had, but you don't need nostalgia if the game is awesome.
We're going to prove it.
In the Book Club.
Hello and welcome to Book Club. Welcome to the middle of February. I hope you've all had a good Valentine's Day. I'm Bedjor and this is...
Howdy everyone.
It's always a bit of a test of the memory, isn't it? Whether
What, remembering my name?
Yeah. Now let's try another memory test. Can you remember Valentine's Day? Did you have a nice time? Did you get some smooching in?
Oh, yes. Oh, I'm sure. Yes. There was plenty of action, and I don't know where this is going. Anyway, I'm sure my wife was very happy about it all.
Most evenings in the Bedjor household go, hello, darling. How are you feeling? Feeling frisky? Not tonight, dear. I'm playing Crazy Taxi. Whatever. I think that's a good way to be. Games should always come first. There are one true
Without
love.
question.
Yeah.
You got to get your priorities in order here. You know what I'm saying?
But Mrs., if you're listening to this, ignore what I just said.
Yeah.
So, I've given the game away. Let's launch straight into the game. What are we talking about today, my good man?
Shing! So we have Crazy Taxi on the Dreamcast. You can't really get much bigger, can you?
No.
This is the top of the iceberg for this kind of stuff. So
Yeah.
And I also have I have the other two at hand here, which are very nice and everything. I know. Bedjor, just to fill everyone in, forgot to get his copies out.
Now, listen,
we discussed beforehand about him getting it.
I got to point out, I distinctly passed the responsibility of me remembering to you.
I know.
So it's technically
I take the failure on the chin. But anyway, Crazy Taxi on the Dreamcast. That's our bad boy for today.
That box, man, that is still so iconic. I just think that's such a timeless little move. Pure yellow.
Yeah,
love it.
I love it. My second copy as well. I literally wore out a copy of this. I had to buy a second one because it was I don't know. It probably melted in my Dreamcast the amount of times it spun around in that thing.
So let's give a little tee up about where we're going to go with Crazy Taxi and what we're hoping to discuss in this bad boy. I definitely think we'll spend a bit of time with the devs. The two guys at the top of the pile, primarily Kenji Kanno and Hisao Oguchi. I think they soak up a bit of our time. Obviously, AM3 itself, we gotta spend a bit of time with AM3. I don't think AM3 gets enough love. I think we need to talk a little bit about AM3.
Although they had transitioned rather, hadn't they? But I think they've been like R&D 3 at that point, and then for Crazy Taxi they become Hitmaker.
Yeah, and then Hitmaker. So
it was a whole
You're right. They Hitmakered up right at the point Crazy Taxi came out, didn't they? And,
yeah.
So we got to go a little bit into them. I think. Well, if we're talking about classic beauts, we've got to talk about ourselves and our own memories of the game. So we'll do a little bit of time with that because this is.
Oh, there's plenty of memories. Yeah.
This is even though you often think about this being near the end of our core period, because obviously Sega exit the market not long after this, it was also probably one of the most vivid. Anyway, we'll come to that. There's plenty of games like Crazy Taxi, none that are really as good as Crazy Taxi, but we should mention a few of the other also rounds as well. We'll do a bit about the other games that are in there. Maybe, if we can be bothered, other games that were in the arcade at the time. As if it matters when you've got Crazy Taxi in the arcade. Who cares what else in there?
Crazy Buttes is the one, but yeah.
And there's the little matter, which we'll come to, of the music, because it's a beast. It's a beast for so many reasons, but the music is a beast. And then, as we mentioned in the last videos, we have loosely come up with this title, the next couple of titles, based on the Power Surge New Era, New Energy plans that Sega has announced. And so we'll maybe come to what we're hoping for from the promised reboot, what we know about it, which is loads. We're really in the know. We've got about 30 seconds of footage we could do on that.
So it's good though. It's good. Actually, funnily enough, just breaking news by the point this episode comes out will be totally out of date. But I literally, before we started recording, saw that the maker of Echo had just posted footage and they've renewed the trademarks and all this sort of stuff, and it's very exciting. So
it is exciting.
Hopefully by the time this video comes out, there'll be a whole load more known about that. But anyway,
you're giving me the nerves then when you said we're doing breaking news. I'm like, dude, mate, we are not up to
I know.
We are not up to
2
speed.
months later or something.
Well, where should we begin? I think we dive in with your man Kenji Kanno, and Hisao Oguchi, and a little bit about who they were. So Kenji Kanno, I guess you'd call him the auteur. He's the guy. He is Mr. Crazy Taxi, and he's
the dude behind the taxi wheel.
Nice use of the wheel aspect.
Wheel, I know. I always like that.
Don't be hocking a lookie on your mic. But so
I try not to.
I mean, obviously he had a team around him, but he is credited with the idea and the inception, the conception of it and stuff. Mr. Kanno, and he's an interesting character because he looms quite large, and I understand he's coming back for the new one, and fans are very happy about that. And in fact, I suppose I say I understand. I mean, it must be cold hard fact, because I was saying to you before about these, Sega must be about 18 months ago now, put these recruitment videos on their website, recruiting people for the teams, making these games and some others, and they had some of the old hands giving a bit of spiel at the start, talk about what they want, what the games could be like. And Kanno-san is there at the start with his cool dude appearance, rabbiting on
leading the
about
charge
Crazy
into
Taxi.
this new era of taxiism, whatever you might call it.
We're not above making words up. It's fine. We'll just do it.
No, it's all good.
He can make a game up. We can make up a word about the game. It's
Totally.
It's not much. But
Why not?
I can't think of any words beginning with "were." Yeah. How long is this going to go on for?
Good man.
So Crazy Taxi, 1999. I mean, before that, he'd done a few games. He hadn't done a lot, if we're honest. I think he'd done Jurassic Park, 1994.
Yeah, the arcade one, right?
I mean, I've seen it. I know it's there. I've probably played it a couple of times, but I mean, I don't think it was really any great shakes. It was just an okay thing, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I don't know if you agree.
Yeah, same.
He made that boxing game. I can't remember what it's called. Super Funky Heads or Funky Boxer Heads or something weird like that, wasn't it?
Right.
So that was like a Titan arcade game. So it came out of the arcades, came out of the Saturn. What the hell was it called? It'll come back to me. But it was pants anyway, so it wasn't particularly good. He made
Funky Heads boxing that you're talking about.
You're
Yeah.
You're good.
Man, I'm glad I wrote down the name of that game I have no memory of.
That's why we're a duo, you see.
Oh man,
I forget
just
stuff.
A well-oiled machine.
So I don't know when that boxing game was, but 97 he made Top Skater, which I think went okay. I think it was pretty good.
Yeah.
And it was a good game.
Big. It was a good time for it. So yeah.
And a bit of a template laying, because it was American influenced, skating. A point we should point out: it came out before Tony Hawk's came out as a game, so Sega was in there first.
Leading the way, as always.
Also had a good American soundtrack with the Pennywise tracks on there, so it was similar kind of vibe and idea of reaching out to the American audience, trying to bring them back into the fold and all that stuff. So that was 97, and then he gets to Crazy Taxi in 99, and probably for most of the next 5 or 6 years into the mid 2000s, he just makes Crazy Taxi. Really, he doesn't really do anything else, and then he makes a few other bits afterwards. But he's an interesting dude because he describes himself as a bit of a rebel, and I think he says something like, I think it was like on, I think it was on the Jurassic Park. It was on one of those first few anyway. He said he was new in the company, and he was making this game with some old hand that was in the arcade division, whatever. And they basically get into a massive fight, and Kenji Kanno takes over the project, and it's like,
Oh,
okay.
really? Yeah.
Fair play to you. Yeah.
Showed who's boss. Coder without a cause.
So it's like, how did he get away with that? No, it doesn't work. I can't do it. I haven't got the thing. So, but it's afterwards he makes a lot of these card games. You know, like Japanese arcades, they carried on a lot longer than ours did. I mean, they have petered out by now, but they carried on in. They didn't carry on in the arcades that we know them for. They carried on with all these card games, horse racing games, like all the grabber games, UFO games and stuff. That's always been part of the culture, and pachinko as well, isn't it? Like
like Konami moved into that kind of thing, and everyone was really disappointed in the rest of the world, weren't they? So,
and I just think, and that's kind of what he did, and he makes So what's the name? I've got it written down. Manic Panic Ghost is the one that I want to play though, because apparently this was like, it's kind of aimed at kids. I never saw it over here. I don't know if it came out over here, but like, so you've got
I don't recall that
massive panel. You got these two plastic hammers, and it's billed as a kind of light gun game, but you apparently smack the screen with the hammers. So I'm guessing.
Oh, you hit the screen. Okay.
I'm guessing it's kind of like a whack-a-mole game, but mixed with like a light gun virtual cop thing. You know what I mean?
Sure.
If you see pictures of it, it does have a really hard reinforced glass front, so you do obviously whack the screen. So fair.
Okay.
But that's where we went after that, and I think like fair play to him. Crazy Taxi is, out of all of that, the one real mega hit that he had, but he very much is Mr. Crazy Taxi, and you know, you see him in interviews, and you know, the ideas and the things that make it the game it is seem to be his.
Well, I mean,
right?
he came up with the concept of it, didn't he? So it was like, I think I can't remember if it was a video I saw or if I read it or something, but he was like sitting in traffic jam or something like that, and was like, you know, and I think there was like an empty lane, like I know it was like a bus lane or something. I don't know how the traffic system works in Japan, but like he was thinking like how cool it would be just to suddenly roar off into that lane and just be tearing around the place, and it kind of like birthed the idea of Crazy Taxi or something in his head.
Nice. Yeah. No.
There was something like that.
No. I remember that story. I guess we were lucky that he didn't sit in the taxi thinking, you know what'd be better? I should just get out and walk. You know, nice stroll through the park.
Strolling simulator.
And then he rocks up. Yeah. Hi, Miss Oguchi-san. I've got a great idea for a game. It's walking in the park simulator. Get out of it.
Well, actually, you know what? Saying that, it was a hard sell apparently to the team anyway for Crazy Taxi, because like, you know, I mean, Sega were known for these like such big, like elaborate games. Like they've done like Virtua Racing F1, Daytona Stock Car, like Indy 500 games, Sega Rally, Manx TT, like these like incredible like races and like in different settings. And then he was like, guys, Taxi Simulator. They were like the life and times. No, actually, he described it as like the daily life and routine of a taxi driver. I saw him describe in an interview, and apparently the guys were like sitting around like, and it was like apparently that a lot of them were like not down for it until they started then developing the idea. But like, you know, apparently, like I was saying, it was a hard sell to them.
Well, you know what they were saying at that point. They were sitting there going, Kanno-san, aren't you the guy that made that Bubbleheads boxing game? And now you want to make a taxi simulator? Why don't you get the hell out of here? I mean, because no, that's how I understand it too. He wanted to make like a taxi simulator game. You know, and they talked about it would have open exploration pits. It wasn't linear race game like a Daytona or whatever. It was a bit more open world. But I say open world, you know, open map is what I really mean. Like a simulator game, and it's only kind of once it evolved. So we said, like, we give him credit for being Mr. Crazy Taxi. Maybe he's Mr. Got Lucky that some guy in his team had a better idea.
Maybe he's just Mr. Crazy. Who knows?
Mr. Crazy. But yeah, so you can see it though, can't you? Because you're like, yeah, all the game things that make arcades big are the speed and the adrenaline of the thing they're talking about.
Yeah.
And like, I remember being in Japan, and obviously they do have modern taxi and stuff, but it's sort of their equivalent of the yellow taxi in like New York or the black cab here are these really old cars with like curtains in the windows and like net curtains and stuff.
I've seen picture.
So, and there are both, you know, there are modern taxis as well, but like that's the classic Tokyo taxi.
I'm kind of visualizing the things
and it's
that
like,
you're talking about.
So you could just picture them going, yeah, a simulator, picture it, net curtains, it would be great. They are mesh effects, so no transparency's needed, know what I mean? And actually, it wasn't a problem in the arcade, but still, good joke, baby.
Yeah,
nice
yeah.
one. Yeah.
Nice material.
Nice material. Cut that out later, didn't really work. So, but he did see it through, and obviously the thing is that it's interesting to note. So say about they didn't like the taxi, but I read a thing with Hisao Oguchi, like the year when Hitmaker was made. So it was soon after Crazy Taxi, and he was talking about plans, and he said, well, actually, we'd really like to make more crazy games, crazy shopping, crazy Paperboy. I'm like, okay. So
yeah, Crazy Paperboy. I'd be behind that one. I love the original Paperboy.
Yeah.
I played that a ton on the Commodore 64. So
I mean, you ramp
that was
it
my
up.
version.
Yeah, you could see anything. I mean, really, anything could work as long as the like map's right and the idea is right and stuff.
Yeah,
I think a lot of the credit in the first game to him as like producer and director goes to the refinements it made, because obviously later on in the evolution they kind of do lose their way a bit in some of the maps, and so flip that around and you say give them credit for the original games, because the maps were open, free to roam, but also there was a kind of route, there was a way to do things and stuff, and it felt very free, like you could invent your own way around things, and that is the developer's hand at work. You know, they refined and they made the maps work, and they, you know, when things weren't working, they changed it. That is what I think deserves credit.
I mean, they had a good vision, I think, for the maps as well. Like, I mean, like obviously in the arcade you had the original one, and then like in the Dreamcast version they added the arcade one. I know a lot of people kind of like aren't really feeling that, but I love that city. That's like an amazing one. But like, you know, it's like I love the differences between them, because like the arcade map, and I didn't even think of this till I was listening to the Sega guy. So shout outs to the Sega holic who
nice one, Jimmy.
Who presented this like, you know, thought of like playing it like a track, like a lap, playing it in a loop, and he knows, like, you know, it's just past the fountain, isn't it? There's a particular guy, I think he said holding some flowers, and like you get him, and then you get to like push on and complete the loop, and then you go around again and stuff. Yeah. But like with the second city, like I love that one. It's so much fun. Like I probably played that one the most, and I know I'm in the minority here, like with that one.
You are a little bit.
It's like, yeah. Like in interviews, he kind of describes it as like he wants you to be able to explore. There's like more potential for getting lost and stuff like that. It's a lot more weaving, whereas the first one is kind of like James said, like you can play it like a loop and stuff. But like, yeah, I mean, I think they just both work so well in their kind of respective areas, and oh man, the fun I had with them, it's just something else.
Well, I think that second map is true. When you know it, it's very rewarding, but it's more frustrating to get into, whereas the arcade map is a little bit more welcoming, and obviously you can still get stuck and you can still go wrong and stuff, but it is a bit more naturally flowing between place to place.
You kind of that's right. I mean, I think with the new one, they wanted that feeling that you can kind of, you know, feel a little bit lost, and they want you to kind of have that element of exploration. And they talk about in the interview that I saw from back in the day that it, like, learning it is a big part of it. And that's the thing in my head now. I know that city. Like if I visited that city, I'd know where I'm going, kind of thing. So, because like me and Lartens played it so many times.
he learning it, and I remember they talked a lot about he wanted a game that would reward you for getting better at it, And so, unlike the pay your 100 yen and get 3 minutes, he says,
Yeah,
I
it was
want
an
you to
interesting
get
concept.
extended time if you do better. And it's like,
That's
yeah,
it, yeah.
it's great.
Was it like they were talking, I think, about 100 yen would like buy you 3 minutes, and they wouldn't want you on the machine more than that because they'd want their next customer.
Yeah.
But like this game, if you got good at it, you'd earn more time, and that was like, you know, the difference between your regular arcade machine and Crazy Taxi, and that's the thing. And it's like, I do wonder, like, I should look up a video and just see how much time, like, because some of the goes that me and Larters used to have on it, like on 1 credit, what would have been like, we played like an hour and a half or something. If someone could do that on the arcade, you know what I mean? It was like they'd be losing some serious coin.
People wonder why Sega went bust. And there you go. It's basically Kanno's fault. But I mean, you can see it working the other way, I guess, because you could play for that long, but you got to get that good, and to get that good, you've got to have loads and loads of goes, and to have loads and loads of goes, you've got to put loads of money in.
You got to own the home version.
Yeah, that is the other thing. It's like that's the thing with Naomi to Dreamcast. You could get good, and then go back into the arcades and like. Yeah.
Well, I think didn't they even come up with the concept of like on some of the machines having the VMU actually plug into it?
Oh,
I never actually saw that, but there was plenty of talk I saw about it. I mean, kind of. Arcades were kind of on their, you know, on their last legs a bit at that kind of era for me. Like you know, early to mid 90s, we were always in the arcade. But when the Dreamcast came out and it could basically do a better version of Crazy Taxi, it's like we were at home playing it. And it's like, you know, and thus birthed the beginning of our antisocial ways.
Well, it's funny again though, right? Because that VMU thing, like, I never saw it either, but obviously knew it existed and thought that's amazing. And I was reading for this how different the Japanese arcades at this point in time, they had like internet enabled arcades and people were playing competitively online. So for instance, Virtua Tennis was online enabled in the Japanese arcades, but not in the West. Right. And so you could play other players. They had like massive multiplayer games that were done through the arcade, and you kind of think, yeah, the home, like they wanted networking on the Dreamcast and then on the Xbox as well. They wanted it in this game, which we'll come to later. But you know, the arcades in Japan were doing some of that stuff. The stuff that kind of stole the arcades audience in the UK, which was like, you know, let's get online, let's start doing multiplayer experiences, let's do longer games. People in Japanese arcades were playing for hours online with loads of other people. So it's an interesting difference, But that's Kanno-san. He is Mr. Crazy Taxi, and you know, he definitely deserves credit. Although I do think it was maybe a little bit of, he had a good team around him and it iterated, and that is where I think AM3 as a team come in, and why you probably talk a bit about Hisao Oguchi, because like Hisao Oguchi at the helm of AM3 and then Hitmaker, I mean, that Kanno's credits are a little bit limited, but Oguchi, I mean, he's like executive producer rather than like developer and stuff, but man, he is like sat over some proper hits. So like he's like obviously he was the head of AM3, so he not all of these were his games, but things under his like ownership: Sega Rally, Max TT, Virtual Lon, Last Bronx, Decathlete, Winter Heat, which like we did a little while ago. Crazy Buttes, Virtua Tennis, and then sort of I think beyond that life, he also supported Yakuza 2. He was part of Billy Hatcher on the Wii, like really, on the production.
That's a decent little game,
like management team. Outrun 2, he's the executive producer. Not Yu Suzuki. You know
that game.
This dude,
that's a CV and a half.
That's a CV and a half. And obviously he's a big guy because after Hitmaker, he would go on to become the president of Sega, and you know, so he is a big name, and what I'm about to say therefore sounds a bit stupid, but like he's not big to most gamers. Do you know what I mean? You don't hear people saying, "Oh yeah,
you know
Yuji Naka, Yu Suzuki, Hisao Oguchi."
Exactly, sure, but no, he's up there.
And I think he deserves more credit. And as to AM3, which will come back to in a sec, but Hisao Oguchi was like, I get the sense what he brought to, like, I read some good interviews about people that worked for him and talked about the culture he created and how he was very much the boss. I think they called him boss, which is kind of obvious if you think about it, but like, he was the boss, so he called him boss. but I think what he created was the AM3 way, which was this. They wanted to add the extra dimension to things, like the creative edge, do things a bit differently. You know, you think of AM3 games, that is it. You know, AM2 games, brilliant, but kind of in their way, vanilla, and AM3 with just that bit edgier. Do you know what I mean? Edgier and a bit different. Do you know what I'm talking about?
I mean,
am I talking nonsense?
No, I mean, there was like this distinct rivalry, wasn't there? Even like to push each other on between AM2 and AM3. Like, I remember, was it Tetsuya Mizuguchi in the there was a Sega magazine. Yeah, there was a Sega magazine article anyway. I think it was like right before Sega Rally came out, and he'd been interviewed, and he was kind of talking like not talking trash about AM2, but he was sort of saying something like AM3 are the jewel in Sega's crown R&D departments, or something to that effect. And he was like, because of this, we don't need a logo like a palm tree or something. I was like, oh, okay. They're fighting words, you know?
What a burn. Words, so. Hitting them where it hurts, right in the palm trees.
But that's the good thing. I mean, like, I suppose because they pushed each other on.
Yeah.
So it's like, you know, AM2 would do their thing, AM3 would do their thing, and it was like, I mean, and I was just sitting on the other end being like, give me all these things, please. It was the most wonderful time. So
it is true. I think AM3, and I guess AM2, but they were one of the few departments that made money, and I think that's presumably part of why Hisao Oguchi went on to be top dog, and you know why they got a lot of free reign and stuff. But I think that is because you did have AM2 had the credentials and they spat out the game, so I'll never knock AM2, even though they had that stupid palm tree logo, whatever. But AM3 added that extra edge, didn't they? And they just span it a bit differently, and I think the two together, that, you know, AM2 obviously classic, I'm not going to do them down, but it's the two together that make that era so classic. You take Sega Rally and Crazy Taxi out of Sega's lineup in that sort of 5, 6, 7 year period, and you're thinking, obviously they're still awesome, but they are two of my absolute gaming linchpins. So
without question. I mean, it's like, I think I was saying before we started recording, it's like a lot of people think Dreamcast, they think Shenmue and all this stuff. For me, Crazy Taxi is right there with them. Like, I could not imagine like Crazy Taxi not being the thing. It's so good, and it's the amount of hours I poured into it. It's like I'm still playing it now, like even like not even on the Dreamcast, like you know, even though it's kind of like a lesser version with all the licensing issues and all that stuff, but they put it on Xbox Live. Like, actually, it was quite a long time ago, but there's still a little bit of an active community who's posting scores every week on the weekly boards and that, and it's like, oh man, it's just the fun of it. It's just, and competing with people still on these leaderboards, it's just, oh, what a game. Just what a game.
What a game.
It's amazing.
But what you say, that it's so tied up with Dreamcast though, and the time, and I think we've talked about this with some of our other folks in the community and stuff, because, and I think when James did his Crazy Taxi video, this was really where he went to, you know, it's a perfect Dreamcast game, and it's perfectly of that time. And you know, we'll come back to music later, but that was part of it as well. But
yeah, I even remember when the disc turned up. I remember like I had this like impression, this is pure fun on a disc.
Yeah,
and it's like, you know what it's like? It's like fun activated. Turn the game on, and
it's funny
like,
you say that.
You are there.
I always think, looking at that box, just the bright yellow, that is exactly what the message is that it gives me. It's just saying, listen, we're not gonna slam you in marketing, we're not gonna give you loads of crap, we're just gonna hand you a game. This is just fun, just go play it. That's what that box is saying to me. You know, it's like
totally.
And they're bang on. So look, I think AM3, they obviously get credit. People know they're awesome. I'm not trying to sort of rewrite history or anything, but I just would say maybe for me there's actually in my own head been a bit of a rebalancing, because I love Daytona. It's, you know, it is, as we on this channel, this is Daytona probably is talked about more than anything else. I love it to death.
We do go on about certain games, don't we?
But Sega Rally is my favourite game, not Daytona.
Right.
And
Yeah,
it's like,
yeah.
you know, and I love loads of games on the Dreamcast, but Crazy Taxi is my favourite. You know, and it's like
Right.
the AM3 actually has landed my very favourite games, even though AM2's probably landed more games overall that I really love. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I know
So-
what you mean. Yeah, totally. I feel that. Yeah.
So I think that's props to AM3 and to Oguchi-san, because I think he has a big part of it, because you hear him in interviews, and it seems that he made this culture and he said, I want us to be different. I want us to bring something different to the game. And you look at everything they did. So even though I don't know it that well, you know that Lost World arcade which they made.
Oh yeah.
And again, you sort of think Virtua Cop 2, awesome. That is my favourite Leica game, and it's perfect. But it's also kind of obvious, I guess. You know, you look at what Namco did. Namco basically ripped it off. Same game. You shoot people.
Time
and they swim around.
crisis.
Lost World is like,
Right.
I mean, it's dinosaurs. You know, I could probably just stop there and say, like, you ain't shoot people, it's
Exactly.
dinosaurs. It's like,
Exactly. I mean, imagine the wall in Dinosaur Canyon if there weren't a dinosaur on it. Like, how boring would that be?
hey, you gotta have dinosaurs. You know what I mean?
Slap a dinosaur in there.
This is it's not where I expected to go. But yeah, so he Oguchi-san, I think, created this culture of like wanting to be different. I also read something, by the way, which less to do with Crazy Taxi and more just a thought, a bit sort of prescient. He made around the Dreamcast time, he makes quite a lot of play of saying, you know, this generation of consoles, the graphics are so good. It's not really about graphics anymore. It's about bringing creativity to the games.
Yeah,
And
the gameplay and these
Although
elements.
he was maybe calling that a little bit soon, because obviously PS2 and Xbox did kind of make great hay of how powerful they were. But he was right in saying, because that was Sega really. It was like, it's not about power, it's about creativity. And maybe
getting those experiences conveyed out and that. Yeah.
So a good times around, but we've probably got to go. We've talked a little bit about memories and stuff. I mean, like we said, this is integral to gaming for us, right? And but different paths. So I mean, what's your memory of it? Because it is very different for me, because I came to a bit later. Like you and Lance,
right? Yeah.
You know, this was your thing first off on it.
Yeah, I mean, it was like our competitive game that we were kind of battling each other off. But it's like, just when I was thinking back earlier, it was like, I remember even when I bought the game, it was kind of like of the era, because it's like, my parents had this like Skybox or whatever, and it was like a digital one or something like that, and I think it was fairly new at the time. I can't really remember, but it had, so in my memory, like when the internet shopping kind of was really kicking off, you had Play and Amazon, and like I know Amazon eclipses like so much stuff nowadays, but like Play was actually quite competitive with it. And on my parents' Skybox, you could actually purchase games from, I'm sure it was Play, like from some kind of shopping option that it had. And I remember like I was looking at it on it, and like the games were all cheaper than they were in the shop by like a $5 or a $10 or something. I can't even remember.
Nice.
But I remember I ordered Crazy Taxi from it, and it felt so futuristic. Like I've ordered it through the TV. It's like this is incredible. I mean, it's like Star Trek holodeck and all that sort of stuff. Eat your heart out. I'm shopping here on my television, and I still remember even the day that it turned up, and my mum was like calling out, like Dibs, you got like a package here and stuff. And it's like she kind of put it outside my door, and I was like, you know, that young teenager kind of slob kind of thing, like crept out of my room, like, oh, it must be Crazy Taxi, and there it was.
It's just,
yeah, it certainly was. And
you're blowing my mind.
I know, it was the future, and I was living it. And
I do think that is years and years and years ahead of me making any kind of purchase online like that. That was, I mean, I was still like, thought Argos was pretty special, going in and like, do you mean I give you a code and then you just get it from the room back there? You know, we were on different levels.
I mean, well, I wouldn't have like known about any of this, but my dad's like friends always put him up to buying all this technology stuff.
Yeah.
Like I remember, like in the mid-90s, he had like a PC with like 3D effects on it and stuff like that, and I was like, my dad's got this. and we were like firing up like Quake or something, and I was like, oh.
Yeah.
It's like they had totally put him up to like getting all this stuff. He probably had no idea. I mean, these days he struggles to shut down the computer, like finding the start menu or whatever.
I was gonna say,
there's no way he knew. What
I
he
never
was
saw
buying.
him sit at that computer one time. That was our computer. You know, like we
totally
used
took
it.
it over.
I mean,
Exactly.
just a little props to Divs' dad here, because not only did he have the 3D effects enabled PC, like really quite ahead of the curve. You know, anyone else who had a graphics chip enabled PC.
Yeah.
All those like guitars, musical instruments, cool hi-fi stuff. Sky, like you were one of the very few people who knew that actually had Sky, so that's quite a big deal. And so like,
yeah. I remember those days.
Props.
Casper was on like about 5 times a day, and I was like watching it or something.
Yeah. Obviously, and at 10 minutes of midnight, you got a little free view of. Let's not go there anyway. What am I saying?
Why birth?
So, but it was different. What were we talking about? Memories. Oh yeah. So you guys, I was away. This is the thing. Like this is kind of the start of my period of being very poor, because I was a student. I went away to university.
Right.
I effectively just played Final Fantasy VIII for about 2 years because I just didn't have any money to buy anything else.
Right.
And
yeah.
But I came back, and you two had got into Crazy Taxi, and you were really good at it. And I obviously hadn't ever played it, and I sucked trying to play it, and just had to sort of really dumb the whole game down to play it. I mean, it's still awesome, don't get me wrong, but I was a bit like, oh man, I'm falling behind the curve here. And that was always pretty shit.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Well, I remember it was just interesting because it was like, I mean, the internet was around, but it was like kind of in its kind of infancy to the average person, I suppose.
GeoCities.
And it was like, yeah. And we were kind of like not really sure what was possible to get out of the game, so we was like pushing ourselves naturally. It's like Lartens would get a good score, I would get a good score, then he'd go to the next level, and then he would go to the next level again, but then secretly I remember he had like a score that was even higher than the one he told me, but then it was like then I pushed on even past that and sort of thing. But it was like, you know, it's just like this competitive thing that we had going on, and we were just pushing ourselves on and on and on. And like I said earlier, we were playing the game like on one credit, what would have been, for like an hour and a half or something like that, because we were just like pushing further and further, like how much more can you just eke out of that score. And like I and then I think actually because of the internet, I actually found the kind of worldwide top scores or something, and we were like not far off of it. It was like the top scores. It was like, I mean, we weren't the top, but we weren't a million miles off, so we'd really kind of pushed ourselves at this point.
I mean, that's great, but I'm thinking I could picture the scene. It's getting late at night, Lance is just beginning his go as you're getting ready for what it's going to be, and it's like 1:30 in the morning. Oh, this has been great, lads. Anyway.
Who would do that? What kind of outers person would do that kind of behaviour?
Now, I got to ask you a question. When you were doing that, did you each use your own VMUs? Or did you like...
Yeah.
Because
so I think I would take it round to his house. I can't remember if you could like, because you could put them together, couldn't you? And I can't remember if you could kind of like combine the scores. I can't really, I can't remember exactly how it kind of like worked and everything like that. But I remember more that the era that we were playing it, and it was like, you know, it was there was that spin-off series on TV like Angel and stuff from Buffy, and we were like, you know, on a Friday night we'd be playing Crazy Taxi, we would pause it just while we watched that show and stuff, and then we would finish and we would continue, and like Lartens would tape like 1 million episodes off of Pokemon, the original Pokemon, like off of TV, and it was just on a second TV, I think it was. Like I might be wrong, but it was just like streaming the whole time.
Like one person with 2 TV set up. Oh, tell me about
I know, yeah. Well, yeah. But it was great. But like I think I was saying to you beforehand, I always have this memory of like Larton, because we weren't that old, I suppose, and he like got called down by his mum for dinner, and I was sitting there playing Crazy Taxi. It had like a couple of VMUs in it, and the pad, when you stick a couple of VMUs in it, it's quite
Chunky.
weighty.
Yeah.
And I remember like I was playing it, and like the pad slipped out of my hands, and it like hit the floor, and I just heard downstairs Larton's mum be like, "What the hell is that?" Because it was like this big bang and suddenly happened from the pad that I dropped, and I picked it up like really sheepishly, like just continued playing. Oh no, like Larton's mum is annoyed with me.
The only thing that I think about that story is, I mean, I've seen you get rage. Now you're telling me it just dropped out your hand. Did you screw something up?
Well, maybe I just run out of time at the wrong moment or something.
And the reason I ask about the VMUs is because obviously, look, I didn't ever really get close to you guys in terms of ability to play it. I still suck at it, and it's actually always been one of my sad things, because I know I love the game, but I also know there's more to it that I have never quite been able to unlock because I'm just not good enough at it. So maybe one day. But yeah, although I didn't compete with you, I did compete with Lartons, and I think you as well, but like definitely with Lartons on the Crazy Box, specifically just a couple of them. Like I think like the bowling one, wasn't it? And like and the one I remember, because this is the one that's pains me, is the Crazy Jump, where like I had some like really good score, and Lartons came round and he beat it. And obviously that's on my VMU. It's still on my VMU today.
That's an insult.
And it's like
he Eddie the Eagle Edward in you on that jump. Like that kind
he's
of
coming into my turf. He's pissing all over my VMU and staking out his territory. So that still hurts. That still hurts. So I think the thing was, obviously, sorry about that poke, because that was the thing. I came back. You guys were also at Crazy Taxi, and you knew all the lyrics to the Jesse and James speech in Pokemon. And I just remember thinking, man, things are changing down here. I need to come back home. I'm missing out. So anyway,
you should have, yeah,
sure.
That's the thing. Building a stupid real life. So thankfully my uni was like nearby, so I didn't have to like move out or anything. But yeah, you had to go further afield, didn't you? But
I think it's fair to say probably Crazy Taxi single-handedly cemented our, I guess, entrenched our love of Sega. You know, we could see what was happening around us. You know, we'd lived through Saturn. We'd seen it fail and fall apart and stuff. And obviously you guys did the importing, so you had a bit longer than I did, but we'd been through that.
Yeah.
And we knew PS2 was coming or came or whatever. We knew that was coming.
Yeah.
But
the writing was on the wall. I loved reading it.
Nice. That's a good bit of journalism. So we were entrenched, diehard Sega fans, and I do feel like Crazy Taxi had a massive thing to do with that, because there was nothing like it. You looked at that one game. Dreamcast could have had no other good games, and you look at that one game and you just think, no one else can do something like this. This is so Sega. It's so brilliantly creative and imaginative. Yeah. And that game, considering how into it got, for me, that is the one game that cemented it, saying, I don't care what comes next. Dreamcast for me is one. That was like where we were at. Do you know what I mean? Like, and
it was. I mean, it was so fun, and it's like games are meant to be fun, and it was like, I can't imagine having much more fun than I'm having right now. So it's like, you know what I mean? Get the crown out. We have a victor.
Because you kind of got this, you know, you've got mid-90s, you've got Daytona and like Sega Rally and the arcade races. You know, Drew mentioned Ridge Racer, but you've got the arcade races. And then consoles start going Gran Turismo. You know, I'm not going to moan. You know, I don't like Gran Turismo, but that seems to be the direction. And Sega's like, whatever, Crazy Taxi. And I just think, yes, Sega, yes, stick it in their eye,
pure
man.
Fun.
Yeah,
pure fun. It's getting to the heart of what it's about.
Yeah,
it is pure fun, and that is the thing with it. It's like, and like I say, it's like I didn't have much more fun that I could tell you about from most other games, particularly of that era. And it's like, and realistically, if I think about it, it probably was the last time that really gave me that kind of hype.
Yeah, that like,
you know what I mean?
Because I got it in flashes. I remember the first time I played Vanquish, I remember thinking, oh yeah, cool mechanic. but it kind of faded.
Okay.
You know, it's kind of faded, and it's like,
Yeah, I think like some of the 3D Sonic games, there were elements of it where I was like, you know, I felt something, you know, in my chest or something. But it was like it wasn't like those Dreamcast days.
nah, it's
It
not
just-
the same. And I'll tell you
Yeah.
one other, and actually, because I was about to take us onto this, but I'll tell you one other that got me close, but fell short for a good reason, and that's Burnout 3 Takedown. Because
Okay.
that, for me, that pure fun. I don't care if it's realistic. I don't care if it makes sense. I'm just going to make a game that is pure fun. I think they nailed it with Burnout 3. But, and remember we talked earlier about, you know, Crazy Taxi was never meant to be point to point like a linear race game. It was always meant to be in a map. You can have a bit of exploration. And I think that's where it doesn't quite nail it, because it's great, but you can only ever enjoy it for like a couple of minutes at a time. You know, you have a race, it's done.
Right.
You crash some cars,
Yeah.
it's done. And it's cool. And I love it. And I love it to this day. And it really is, you know, I do think it has that same spirit of let's just make it nuts and crazy and really fun. I love that.
I know what you mean. I did feel like that on the second one. Like I was real hyped for the second one.
You love the second one. I mean,
I do love the second
I'm
one.
a 3
because
man.
it's like-
I'm going 3.
The thing is, we'd had 1, and then you'd had 2 where it like pushed the fold out, and then 3 kind of like was a little bit, you know, when you get to the third of something, you're starting to feel a little tired.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of people were kind of cottoning onto it at 3.
Yeah.
So it was like,
Well,
you
that-
know what I mean?
see, that
I
was
think
me
that's
when
why
I-
I gave it the hype.
It's another one I came back. You guys had been playing the Burnout games, and I don't know who had an Xbox, but I never did. So I came back and you were on 3. So I did come into it at that point, which is a big part.
Yeah.
But the problem being, it is limited. You can't just keep going. You know, like the whole mechanic of like the racing bit and Burnout, it's like it's cool to like dodge the cars like in Crazy Taxi, and to boost like in Crazy Taxi, you know, and to do crazy stunts like in Crazy Taxi. But it's limited. Whereas Crazy Taxi is so genius that you can just loop it and keep going, and it is
like
every
all the
game
time,
is different.
just be bringing.
Yeah. So
it's man.
Well, I was going to talk a bit about is there anything like Crazy Taxi? You know, is there like, and Burnout 3, I chuck it in there because it has some similar mechanics, like a sort of a bit of drift, dodging cars. I say stunts a minute ago. I mean, like, you know, the slow motion like replay thing and stuff. You know, it has some cool mechanics which are just about fun, not realism. It's like it in that sense, but it's obviously not the same kind of game. Well, there are some. We've talked earlier about, before about Emergency Call Ambulance, which is from the look of it, it's like a similar looking game, and obviously another like Sega arcade. Like, but yeah, I was playing it for the first time a month or so ago, and it really is very different because it's not about speed and high octane. It is it is crazy, and it is like quirky and weird and stuff, and obviously you do have to get from point to point through a city, and that's similar, and you have an arrow, but it is a lot slower. And you know, if you if you
it's
crash
the
into
birthing
stuff,
of an idea.
It's like if you crash into stuff, knock other cars, or like bump too hard over a hill and stuff, your patient dies, and you're like, okay, so you're kind of the opposite of Crazy Taxi, where they give you a tip for doing that stuff.
It was on Model 2, right? So it was quite a bit earlier. Is it on Model 2 or is it Model 3?
In my head, someone is going to know the answer to this. In my head, I want to say 1996, but I don't actually know. So
let us know in the comments how wrong we are.
In fact,
because
should we just have one
bloopers.
better comment? You're wrong.
But I'm always waiting for like when we realise the things that we say wrong for people just to be trashing us in the comments. But that would take people actually watching us, and hopefully we're not big enough yet.
I often say, oh, it's all right, I'll edit it out, and then I'm sitting there doing the editing and thinking, I am not faff to take this out. That could just bloody well stay in there. I'm like, someone can correct us. So I would chuck in Grand Theft Auto. You know, I think of the polygonal Grand Theft Autos, you know, 3 onwards and stuff. But actually, the idea of point to point, complete a mission, race through a city, go really fast, don't crash into things. You know, a lot of the kind of Crazy Taxi ideas They're in the first Grand Theft Auto, so I guess there is a bit of it anyway. You know, sort of, especially like on, later Grand Theft Autos where the speed really picks up and it does feel quite manic and stuff. You know, I'm not. They're very different games overall, but there's echoes, bits and pieces are in there, aren't they? And like
I mean, I did, like I was saying earlier to you, I think before we recorded, like I think I read a comment that the makers of Grand Theft Auto kind of doffed their hat a little bit to Crazy Taxi, and when they moved into 3D worlds and stuff like that. It was maybe the thought was there, who knows, but
that freedom, like I definitely think, like but towards the later Grand Theft Auto games where the power of the machine started to allow you to really explore the city a bit more freely and quickly, I think. But it's only an echo. I want to chuck in 18-wheeler, but it's kind of it's not really the same, because it is a linear game, really. 18-wheeler, isn't it? It's just like there's the sort of, it's the dodging traffic and it's the like craziness of it and stuff.
I mean, it was like I don't know. I mean, I did enjoy the game, but it wasn't quite the same, was it?
Nah, slow. If anything, it's like a slow Outrun 2. It's like kind of
the trucks are weighty and heavy and things like that, and like the freeways are quite open, and still a good game. I like it.
I think it's okay, but so I don't think, just for the record, probably don't think it's like Crazy Taxi. I just, because it's of that era, I just took it in. There's the elephant in the room if you're going to talk about games that are like Crazy Taxi, though. Do you want to take us through that bad boy?
So hang on, which one was it? Road Rage. The Simpsons Road Rage.
yeah.
So I actually ended up dropping several companies in hot water, didn't it?
Yeah.
So hang on, which ones? Let me see right here. It's EA, Fox Interactive, and Radical Entertainment. So
EA
I'm naming all you guys.
I'm sad about that.
What a shame. EA. Oh, after what they did to the Dreamcast as well. Have some of that, mate. So basically, I mean, there's no two ways about it. I mean, even reviews of the time were like, this is too much like Crazy Taxi. It was a complete rip-off, and I know it's a bit of a thing, like they did a Simpsons skateboarding that was like kind of a nod to Tony Hawk's. They did this game, then afterwards they did Hit and Run, which was like a nod to GTA, Grand Theft Auto. So but like, for Sega, this was too close, and it was really. I mean, like I remember, like I didn't buy the game because I really, if you're gonna be playing this kind of game, you're playing Crazy Taxi. You don't want to play this game. It's like way worse. But it was like, Sega were like looking at it and were like, now this is too close for comfort, and they did something about it, and the I mean, like, so. There was a whole lawsuit. So Sega brought a lawsuit against these three companies. It was like a San Francisco court and everything. But what ended up happening was they ended up settling outside of court because of. You gotta think these companies thought they weren't gonna win. This game was a complete rip-off of Crazy Taxi, and Sega had actually copyrighted the idea, didn't they? So it was like a US patent. It's called like the 138 patent, and it was basically to do with like taking passengers to a destination, wasn't it? And it was specifically stuff mentioned like that,
specifically
the arrow,
the arrow
or the hand. And like it was undeniable. I mean, it was a Crazy Taxi complete rip-off.
Because I think those reviews, the ones that mentioned it, were like cited in the lawsuit, saying, nothing to do with us. These people are telling you that it's the same, which makes you think. They used reviews as evidence. Like they presented it and stuff. Which makes you think that it was on the genre and style of the game, but patent. So the 138 comes from, I think it was patent
Yeah.
number 6,200,138 or something.
Oh,
So-
hang on, I have 1,200.
Oh, man.
One other
The
thing. I
internet's
might be
lied to me,
wrong.
dude. The internet's like,
So,
but the 138.
knows?
Let's just say,
The
forget the
138
numbers.
was the last 3
138.
digits. Yeah, they're the ones that count. So.
But it's really narrow. So the patent is specifically like something like a car drives around a map and an arrow points the person where to go, and you're thinking,
Right.
isn't that like loads of games? So
That's basically a sat nav, isn't it? So-
but there's the irony as well. We were talking about that in Crazy Taxi. I can't actually remember how the arrow behaves in the arcade. I want to say that the arrow in the arcade, Crazy Taxi, does kind of show you the way. But anyway,
Yeah.
but in the Dreamcast one, obviously, it acts like a compass and just sort of points. And
yeah, it's like a general direction
Yeah,
kind
and
of.
in
It's
the-
not like you know, I mean, especially, I mean, you could, if you play that game sometimes, it's pointing the other direction. It's like,
Exactly.
"Wait,
No, that's the
wait,
point.
I know it's this way.
Like I can imagine the judge is sitting there. He's played Crazy Taxi. He's sitting there going,
Yeah.
"You want to make a point about the arrow? Let's talk about the arrow." Case
That-
dismissed.
First, make that freaking thing work, and then we can talk.
I mean, the arrow's got a character, and obviously the fact the arrow points the wrong way. When you get good at Crazy Taxi, it's satisfied to ignore the arrow and basically say, "Yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
You don't know." What
Yeah,
you're
you know
talking
your
about."
way. You can cut those corners, and that's kind of like,
Yeah.
you know, it feels like you're kind of pulling off like a little bit of a cheeky kind of maneuver when it's trying to loop you up over the top of like a hill when really you can take a cut through to the left or something.
And what are
like
the things,
that.
you know, like going through the train tunnel and the arrow's desperately telling you to
Yeah.
go that way, and you're like, "I got to
Yeah.
that way." Yeah.
And then when you're nearly at the other end, it suddenly pivots like completely, doesn't
your
it? And
face,
be like,
arrow.
yeah,
Told you.
I know where I'm going. So
I actually do like doing that in real life with my sat nav. You know, it's like
Yeah.
it reckons this is the way, and I'll ignore it, and it will keep recalculating and say, "Turn around, turn around, turn around," and then eventually it cottons on, and it's like, "Oh, okay, whatever." And I'm like,
yeah.
I don't really know why I'm following a sat nav if I know the way, but maybe I'm a petty, pathetic individual. I don't know. Just, who knows?
You've got to show the machines who's boss before Skynet shows us. So.
That's what they needed in Terminator. It's like, yeah, forget sending Terminators back. They just needed to reprogram a sat nav. Send John Connor down the
Exactly.
wrong street. Screwed him.
He's done for. Yeah, but basically, I think with that whole lawsuit, so they settled outside of court, didn't they? And I think
Yeah.
Sega got particular perks because it did sell well, but it didn't get pulled from shelves afterwards.
Yeah, because
then I
Sega
think
did seek
started-
to get it pulled from shops, and that didn't happen. So
Initially, yeah, but then I think what happened is they obviously must have struck a deal
They must have
where
struck a
Sega
deal,
would then
yeah,
get
yeah.
revenue from it, and like they were like, yeah, sell as many as you want of them. It's like, you know what I mean?
and it now
They were
it now
just, like,
costs a
cha-ching.
fortune, doesn't it? Like, not that Sega will see any of the money. Maybe they will. Maybe the deal includes, and if scalpers on eBay sell this game for £1 million in the future, we get a cut of it.
Yeah.
I don't know where I'm going.
Is
with
it
that.
going
So-
for a lot? I didn't know that actually.
Yeah, no, I'm sure it went for a lot. Remember when we went game
Ah.
hunting, like when I first got my Xbox, and you were like, "Oh yeah,
Yeah.
see if you can find it, see if you can find it." But it's like,
Oh, I think I was talking about Hit and Run. I remember.
Oh,
I mean,
were
it's not really expensive, but I think Hit and Run was kind of like getting up to the 30 mark when
Yeah, yeah.
30 was quite felt quite unreasonable
Well,
and stuff. But,
that would make more sense
yeah.
because from memory, and I didn't actually check this before, I do own Road Rage and don't own Hit and Run, so that would make more sense.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think that's where we're sort of drawing the links with Grand Theft Auto, because obviously, yeah, Hit and Run. I read a thing saying after the lawsuit, they decided to make another game. They had to push it away from the ripping off Crazy Taxi thing for obvious reasons, because they got their pants pulled down. And so they sort of went off and ripped someone else off instead. Was the idea.
Yeah, yeah.
And so yeah,
Yeah.
fair enough. So
But yeah, they somehow, I don't know, like Rockstar obviously didn't come after them, but apparently there was like so many GTA clones or something coming by that point. Like well, there was, I can't even remember the names of half of them. Was it Crime? Something had the True Crime or something? Was it something like that? I seem to remember buying, and it was like,
This is an area where I could really make myself look like an idiot, because I just didn't do that whole era at all. Saints Row, is that one? Can't remember. Bully,
Yeah.
by
I mean,
same
the thing
people,
is,
isn't it? Can't remember.
I know that Saints Row has like a bit of a following, but sort of like with the games that kind of came out immediately as a result of a GTA. I
Yeah.
I played them and I kind of felt like I don't need to play these. It's like, GTA's got it covered sort of thing. And yeah, but I don't know. I might be wrong. I mean, like, I'm probably offending a lot of fans or something like that. So apologies. I don't know what I'm talking about.
You're going to get some heat in the comments, dude. You are going to get taken down to Chinatown.
They have to find us first.
Dude, we're on the internet. We're literally putting ourselves out there to be found. Sega. But there is an area that we haven't yet gone into, and I think it's now time to turn our attentions to it, and that's got to be the music, because it is just iconic. It's hard. You mentioned earlier, actually. Sorry, before I go to so you played the Xbox Live Arcade version. Is that the one that's not got the music? That's like got different.
Most of the time I've kind of turned on other music because I'm pretty sure that it doesn't have it.
Yeah.
Like, I think actually my daughter, shout outs to you, plays a version of Crazy Taxi on the iPad, and it has the full soundtrack. It has
that's the way I remember
and everything.
it. That it goes like the version, the sort of initial few versions, other ports of Crazy Taxi have the music. Then Xbox Live Arcade, and I want to say PS3 or PSN or whatever doesn't have it. Maybe.
Yeah, I'm sure the Xbox version. I mean, I think that's why I kind of like don't listen to the sound so much, because it's like it's not there, because it's like you just want that don't you?
That's the way to start, and I think
exactly.
Yeah, but then it comes back they get the license back for the iPad, and I'm like, that's really weird. I guess the only thing I can think of is, we were saying earlier, The Offspring. So Bad Religion, obviously doing like half the soundtrack, had been going ages. They're a huge band. They're like gold records and band stuff. But it's fair to say they probably waned by the time Crazy Taxi came out. But Offspring actually
I didn't know
probably
them as much.
On the way. They're probably on the way up, The Offspring, if anything. Like, they probably had their peak around 99, 2000, 2001. With the MTV2 era and stuff. They were. So maybe they were like, we're too big for you now. Sorry, you'll have to take it off the game. I don't know.
Well, I did see a thing like about how The Offspring actually said that getting their songs in Crazy Taxi is one of the greatest moves of their career or something. It was like one of the most beneficial things.
You can see
it seems pretty nuts when there are versions out there without it, when even the band themselves, who are so associated with the game, it's that opening thing, it's like people are like, oh, Crazy Taxi, like immediately.
It's funny, I've come across quite a few people who know that game because of the music or record, who aren't gamers, and it's like it really seems to have somehow got out into the ether. Like, I don't know, it's just one of those things. But obviously for us, it was a double bonus, because for a lot of people, they heard The Offspring Crazy Taxi, it made the game cooler. They also maybe discovered The Offspring, got into them, but for us it was extra special because we were probably 96, 97. So when was Smash? Like 95, I want to say, but.
Smash, I think I did write it down. Oh, Smash came out in 1994, but we were really into it like 95, 96.
So Smash and
had a lot of good
Ixnay on the
songs
Hombre, we were like...
Ixnay on the Hombre came... Yeah, I mean, I went and got that album. So the songs, like All I Want and Way Down the Line, were off of Ixnay on the Hombre. It came out in 1997. I went and bought that day one. And then we actually went and saw them on that tour, didn't we?
Yeah.
And then later on, when these songs are in Crazy Taxi, and a lot of people were like, you know what I mean? They hear the song, they're like, Crazy Taxi and stuff like that. It had other meanings for us. It was it had previous, because like I say, I think, in my memory, I think, was it Brixton Academy went and saw them?
It was Brixton.
It would have been 97.
Definitely one of my best gigs, that. So, but yeah, Brixton Academy.
Oh man, I remember going to it, and I was a little bit feeling lethargic, or something. I wasn't really in the mood for being at a gig, and when they started playing, the hype was insane.
Well,
it was probably one of the favorite shows
awesome.
I ever went to.
Yeah, Brixton was an awesome venue. It just had it was quite small, compared to, it's like if you go to a
Yeah,
Wembley
very
arena,
small, yeah.
which loses everything. Brixton was
Yeah.
tight.
Yeah, it's got like a personal kind of like touch to it, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But it was like the hype. Like listening to that kind of music in that kind of venue, it was hype, and the things that happened there, it was as well as probably one of my favorite gigs. It was one of the most crazy gigs we ever went to because it was like, do you remember like so it had like started out had a couple of funny moments, like so like they were doing they were playing like Wannabe by the Spice Girls because it was that was like fairly fresh. They were playing it out like on their guitars and stuff, and they were saying like, if the crowd doesn't do this particular thing they wanted them to do, they're gonna just play Spice Girls all night or something like that. But then someone ran on stage and Noodles, the guitarist, someone like grabbed his glasses and took it. Oh, that was it actually. He said that if they don't give him his glasses back, he was gonna play Spice Girls all night. That was totally it. And I remember, he was only kidding, of course. So it's like they weren't gonna.
What
he
a
wasn't
kidder.
like actually annoyed, but I know that guy. But like it was like so many. So they like arranged like a stage diving competition. They got started getting a couple of people up. Then obviously like at that point like security were overwhelmed and everyone just got on the stage and they were playing like a song like their final song with like everybody around them. Like it was one of the songs off of Ignition. I can't even remember which one it was.
Yeah.
But like everyone was just going mental, and it was like some guy. This is one of the things I remember. Some dude, like he climbed out on that balcony, and if you look at that balcony, it's a small venue, but that balcony is
it's
super
still high. It's 30 or 40 feet. Yeah.
Some kid jumped off of that balcony, and he broke his like collarbone and all this sort of stuff. He was like, oh my goodness, man. Yeah, it was crazy, but like ironically crazy. Actually. But man, what a time it was. But actually, like it was interesting because we were talking earlier, weren't we, about a particular other band was getting started at that time, wasn't it? And they were opening for them. So.
Actually, there's another good comparison we'll have to make. But yeah, so the support act were Feeder, and Feeder I think they either just released their first album or were just about to release their first album. Yeah. And like it probably the only time I've ever seen a support act go down well. Like people actually really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I mean, like I probably think I remember I saw a Hailstorm like once when I was like me and Lartons went to see Slash or something, and that's the only time I can ever think of a comparison because they went down really well. But like Feeder, people were feeling it.
It went down so well, and actually I did really like that first album and I did buy it, but I did kind of go off them later. And I suppose the comparison to make is you told me this, but like then Feeder had tracks in Gran Turismo, and it's like so that kind of tells you about their loyalties. Like it's Feeder. Yeah, you were very good in that concert, Feeder, but then you went that way. Like
Offspring was paving the way for you guys, like fronting that Sega game. And you went Gran Turismo. Sort it out, will you?
Well. We were talking about this before, and obviously I didn't remember the guy jumping off. I do now. You prompted it, but it shows how my memory works. My memory kind of relies on you being there. Like I think if you die before me, dude, that's half my life just wiped out. Like it's sort of
there is gone.
I kind of my save games.
My memoirs or something.
Yeah, my memoirs. You'll have to write.
But
then the other thing was that we met Feet and like I shook the guy's hand. Yeah,
you did. You shook their hand.
We looked it up. Like I can't remember his name. Hito something, wasn't it? But like the bassist in Feeder.
The bass guy. Yeah. They came and stood behind us. Yeah. And like used to be shaking because I remember at one point like I looked around, you were shaking some dude's hand, and I didn't actually recognize that it was them. And like later I was like, "What are you doing?" And you was like, "That was the band that was just playing."
And the thing was, it was definitely them because like they've had quite a unique look. Obviously, we're a band in the 90s.
Yeah, this story could take a different turn if it was just a couple of random dudes. But it was Feeder, we assure you. So.
Well, we were too young to drink, so we weren't like imagining it. I'm just going to ask one thing, listeners, just look away now. Was that also the gig where we went to Ross's sister's house and downloaded a few pictures of Tiffany Amber Thiessen? Was that?
I think that was. We went and saw Reef. That was Reef.
That was Reef. Yeah, it was Reef.
Yeah, it was Reef. I think that was at Hammersmith Apollo, wasn't it, or something like that?
Kind of in my head, I knew that. I just wanted to relive that moment when we first saw Tiffany downloading on the internet.
The first time. Our first ever search on the internet, Tiffany Amber Thiessen.
Because just for people that remember this, you remember the joy and the pain of downloading a picture, not necessarily of a scantily clad person off the Saved by the Bell, but it could have been of a car or something, and it downloading a strip at a time, like something from a Commodore 64 or something. It's like,
come on, get down to the goods.
Are they going to be nipples? No, I wasn't thinking that. That was probably Ross's sister.
Obviously
anyway, moving
not,
on. So,
Yes.
But it's just the music in the game was where we start with all this stuff, and it is and was awesome. And you know what? You load it up now, like 25 years later, and you're like, man, it still hits in the same way. And I'm like, I got to tell you this one thing. This is really random, but I read an interview with Kenji Kanno that this French Sega magazine had done, and they say something like, "Oh yeah, you know that the Offspring song where it goes like it happens again down the line. Oh, there's a chain. What is it? Oh, you know the one. It's like I can't remember the actual lyric now, so this story's going to fall apart. But it's like the song is about how the bad behaviours in a family repeat, and the dad's gets drunk, and so his kid
the daughter gets knocked up, and it has some kind of bad life or something. And
it's all repeats. And the French magazine said to Kenji Kanno, which is obviously kind of like making a chain combination in Crazy Taxi and getting tips. Is that why you did it? And I'm thinking, that is a really bad link to make. This is like about like kids learning.
Let me
bad
guess.
behaviours on their parents.
He said, yeah, right. So...
Actually, he was very honest, and he said, "Well, actually, I don't speak a word of English, so I have no idea what the lyrics say."
Yeah, he was just rocking out to that one. He was like, "Yep, slap that one in there." So.
We didn't mention much apart from Larton's being an arse and pissing over my VMU about the crazy box modes, but obviously Dreamcast.
Okay.
One thing you've got to give the Dreamcast one is the fact it did add on to the arcade. So this was the era of Naomi ports. It was the era of kind of the arcades and consoles really sort of diverging from one another. You had to give a bit extra. I mean, it doubled the game because it added another course, which obviously you love, and I like.
Yeah,
I do prefer the arcade, but it's
I can completely understand that people prefer the original one, but I think one of the things is that me and Larton's got so competitive on that course, and that's why it kind of kind of embedded a lot more in me.
And like I say, once you get good at it, I remember getting better. I wouldn't say good, better at it, and really enjoying it. And the point being, it is really good, and it's a whole other course. Like it's
it was like,
it's
man,
massive.
it's like this wasn't in the arcade. It's like a whole nother city. And I think in the interview, I mean, I never really thought of the size comparison, but he says that it's like actually bigger. So it's like you can't turn your nose up at that. And actually, kind of, I think I think actually one of the things as well, like kind of in the last 5 years, and I used to write about it on Grigorig, was I started playing you can do like 3-minute runs, 5-minute runs, 10-minute runs, and I started doing those and kind of like trying to get to the top of the weekly leaderboards on the Xbox Live. Like I say earlier, it's still active, and actually I think even now it's still active, and there's like a little community of people. But like I started developing new methods, and it's like I don't think you can necessarily apply it to them if you did the main game and did the big run, but like I developed this method of where I think the highest score I got was like about 9 or 10 grand off of one fair. And that was because the thing is, when you're doing like a 10-minute run or something like that, you're not trying to necessarily add time onto your kind of like your run that you
max out each fair.
It's like you got 10 minutes max out those fairs. And so I started doing have you seen the wall stick technique? It's like basically if you get a really good wall stick, it's like combo, and then it's like you go on to the next fair, the next wall, like try and get good wall stick combo, and as long as you don't like hit another card that breaks the combo, by the time you actually get to the destination, you can actually run out of time. But as long as you get a really good wall stick, like it completely negates the fact that you're going to get a slow kind of like you know, like report, whatever you call it, off of the actual fare. And it's like, I mean, like I'll try and get a good one, and maybe you can stick it into the video on this episode.
You're setting yourself up now, man. You're gonna have to do it.
But the thing is, it's like the highest I got, like from a 10-minute run, was something like 32 grand, and it kind of negates it a bit, because you feel like you're not playing Crazy Taxi. The more the time kind of progresses, you kind of have to start forgetting the wall stick. Like early on, you can really like rinse some fares out of these wall stick kind of techniques, and just use the time you got. Don't worry about, like, you know, because you can be in the green area and run out of time. But if you've got a wall stick and it's like combo, it's like it doesn't matter that your time is gone. You're in the zone that you have to get them to, and they'll get out and be like, "Oh, you suck," whatever sort of thing. But then it's like when they stick 10 grand on your kitty, it's like, well, thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much. Yeah. Kiss my ass on top of the leaderboard. Yeah.
Exactly. And I've never quite gotten like the balance. Like I haven't thought through it enough. Like, is there a way that I can kind of incorporate this into the main game and kind of get the balance right, because you are battling against the clock kind of thing. But you know, I feel like there's something there, you know what I mean? It's like,
keep plugging away at it, dude.
But
I'll tell you what, you plug away at that. You plug away at that, and I'm going to plug away at doing a remix of you saying combo, which sounds a bit like that dance track. Techno.
I do apologise. I'm sure it's very annoying that I was clicking my fingers at the same time. Apologies, listeners.
It won't be annoying when we've done a techno remix. Let's just put it that way.
That's the number one waiting to happen, mate.
Yeah. We should turn our attentions to new era, new energy. So obviously, Crazy Taxi, I don't know if everyone else feels the same. For me, it leads the line in the new video. Maybe it's because the footage of it seems the most developed, and it was still a demo footage. You know, it was, they make the point this game could change. It could be nothing to do with it. And I have read a few things since, which kind of suggest they're toying around with ideas at the point of that footage.
Yeah.
But there's a bit in there, and so, you know, like we're saying about all these games, we don't know a huge amount about what they're planning to do with it.
There's some interesting footage. Like there was something, like I think you sent me something the other day. There was like monster trucks and all this sort of stuff, and it's a bit like, you know, I kind of like the purity of the original one. Like even in the second one, when they put a button in it so you could jump. And I know that was to do with the city, because like it was based off of New York City in the second one, and it's like very flat, whereas the first one's based off of San Francisco, so you can naturally do jumps off of stuff. And they had to give it that extra element. But you know what I mean? It's like
there's bits in there to worry. I get it, and I think and it does have people worried, because they've kind of said, like, so what we know first off, they've talked massively multiplayer online, you know, loads of people in the map, and obviously we've seen these other iterations, and you get the sense, are they going to mess with the formula? I think is the general worry. I don't know stuff about MMOs and the modern kind of games. I'm old, whatever. I hold my hands up. I don't care about Fortnite. I don't care about all these kind of whatever it is that they're playing. But it's like, is that the crowd they're kind of chasing? It's like, I don't know. I mean, one thing I will say is that I used to think how awesome it would be when me and Lartans were competing if we could both be in that same city, trying to get fares, trying to battle that way, you know, because it was like I got a good score, he got a good score, it was like back and forth. What if we were in that city at the same time battling each other? How fun would that be? Or annoying, depending on if you win or lose or whatever. Here's a few tidbits, because I guess we've got to recognise it has got a few people worried, and I've said to you, I'm quite positive about it, because I'm looking at it thinking, and I have read this since, like, to prove it, but I'm thinking, if they keep the core mechanics and if they have a good map, you can do what you like it'll be Crazy Taxi. And it's a bit worrying, because, you know, I don't massively love the maps on Crazy Taxi 3. I don't really like them that much in Crazy Taxi 2. So there's that. But
Yeah.
you think if they really work on the map and if it's a really good core game, you can kind of do what you like with the multiplayer thing, and it won't worry me. But here's a few tidbits. One is interviews I've seen where they've said, so this is, I think this bit comes from, you heard about the recruitment videos they did where they've like recruiting staff.
yeah.
So you've got some of the game devs. Kenji Kanno's done one, and he talks about what they want, and there's little teasers about what they're doing. So they've said they're keeping the core mechanics. They've made a great play of that. I'd kind of go, this is really a reach, but back in the day, like Hisao Oguchi and Kenji Kanno to a bit, you read interviews with them, and what the thing they talked about, they wanted to make network games, they wanted to connect, and specifically they built a game. I think it's called Crazy Taxi Next. It was certainly, but it's for Xbox. They built a game. They started to build a game that had online in it, but couldn't get it to work. Now the interesting thing is, Oguchi said they couldn't get it to work because they couldn't make it stick. They couldn't make it matter that it was multiplayer, because essentially you're in a massive city and it sort of doesn't matter that there's someone else there. You're just doing it. So back in the day when you probably would have been doing like PvP and you wouldn't have hundreds of players in the map, that would have been more true, but you could still see it today. But I don't know, I could see it working. I could see, as long as you're free to race around, not race, as long as you're free to zoom around, I should say, and like just still have fun doing the core game, I could see it working. And I don't know, chuck in stuff like, there are loads of other players, they can nick in and grab your fare just before you were saying,
and that was the thing, that I was thinking it could be like a cool element. It's like, you remember that guy, you go back to get for it, you remember where a green is or something. It's like, Lartens has already got it, you know what I mean? It's like I can imagine there being something to it.
And you could do a bit of like point to point. So I'm trying to think of a game example, but where it is like, there's 100 of you, you've got to like zoom rounds, like collect fares, but they've got to be a certain type. So the first one to get 10 greens or something, and it's like, maybe that could work. Who knows? But I just think it could be fun. What worries me more than anything is mechanics. And it's funny you mentioned about the crazy hop, right? Because Oguchi himself said that it was really important to them when they built the first game that the boost mechanic wasn't a button. That they said, we've got to have like a trick that looks impressive in the arcades. Got to do something. Because that's the thing. It's like, it's like if you watch so many Crazy Taxi videos, and it's like when I've been around people's house and I've seen them playing it, no one they don't understand it. They don't even know it's there or something. I don't know. It's like I'm like looking at them like, mate, do the boost, do the crazy dash, do these things, and it's like, they're like, what's that? And I'm like showing them, and they're like, oh no, keep playing, and they're like watching what I'm doing. I'm like, this is what it's all about. You gotta like get this stuff out of the game. That's where the fun. That's where the fun is. And in fairness, that's what Crazy Box was for. It was to give you the skills, like, because they said people in the arcades weren't getting it because they didn't know how to do it. But they said there's got to be a mechanic. You can't just press a button. Go back to Burnout 3 for a second. You just press a button and you boost. It's not the same. Doing that. This is why I love the Dreamcast pad. This is why I think it's better on the Dreamcast Crazy Taxi, because the way we have it set up anyway, where you do the left, right, zoom or whatever, it's like it really feels like you're doing the pedals with your feet, but with your hands. And it's so good. And the crazy hop was a button, and you're like, it just didn't feel good. It just
it didn't. Like, it took more away from me than anything. It was like, I think I did read in the interview that it was like what I was saying just a minute ago, like they kind of felt like they needed to give these flat maps a bit of height so you could go on the top of buildings and stuff like that, but it was just like it just wasn't it.
But you know what,
totally,
what you'd say if you were trying
to do something.
What you'd say if you were in the room would be like, if you need to do that to make your map work, redesign your map, because like that was sort of how they approached the first map.
I think
we'll just perfect and perfect to make it fun. So
Yeah, but I think the thing is, it was based off of San Francisco, wasn't it? The first map, so you're jumping off the hills. There's all those trams and kind of that kind of stuff. It's like, I mean, what's that Steve McQueen movie? Is it Bullet, where he's jumping down all those hills? Yeah. I mean, even Knight Rider did episodes where they're doing all that sort of stuff, and it's like, you know, it makes for exhilarating car kind of chases and car action and stuff like that. And it's like, you know, I mean, maybe they should have watched Die Hard with a Vengeance or something, because there's some good like chases in New York and stuff like that, isn't there?
Well, this is the thing. Like, I know they did New York, and I know it's flat, and I know there's loads of buildings. Ultimately, New York is a boring city to look at. If you go to New York, like, I've been there a few times, and it's an amazing place to visit because there's stuff to do, but to look at, it's pretty dull. It's like going to Canary Wharf in London or something. It's like, this is just load of, but
there's not even canaries there. It's incredible. It's like ridiculous.
There's barely a wharf. It's like, I actually watched a good episode of Star Trek yesterday with Worf in it. Different Worf. That's a tangent. Let's not go down there. So
tangent alert.
So, but the point being, in that map, there are some really cool bits. You know, the like jump where you jump over a bunch of buildings. You know, it's like, there's probably a few of them in that Crazy Taxi map where there's like quite a big. It's like isn't there like a bit you go underground? There's two long ramps either side, and they're quite thin. You hit it, and you can jump over these buildings and whatever. The point
in the first one,
in the first one, in the second map.
Like, But it's
like,
you go over the top,
You know, it's like, sure, have New York, but just fiddle with it. You know, just make it fun. You don't have to stick to it.
Yeah,
I feel like that's what they did in the third one. They were just too rigid about, we want the map to look like this, and there were really frustrating bits where you could just like fall off roads. It was just like,
I remember being a bit frustrated. I ended up down in this canyon, and it was sending me back and forth, and I kind of ran out of time. I couldn't get out of the canyon, and it was like, that's one of my kind of overriding memories of that kind of game. And you know, and they did do cool stuff in it, like, I guess to some extent. I mean, I don't think they really needed to redesign the original map, but they did put that in that game, and they kind of added extra stuff. Like, I think next to the freeway there was something off to the side. Was it like a theme park or something like that? I can't quite remember. So it's kind of like, you know, they were trying to spice up the original one a bit, but it was just so right in the first one.
It was so right. Like, and actually, just a quick thing on mechanics, because you remember in that third one when you boost, and it does the flames behind you, and you kind of really and it's like, I get it, it looks flashy, but the first one was better. It was just like, you reminded me though, saying theme park. That is what I've heard as well. They want a theme park kind of style. I think again that's from this interview.
Right, in the new game.
In the new game, and you're like, do you know what? I could kind of see that, because basically, I would think, look, just you don't have to do San Francisco again, but just pick a place that works for the game. You know, New York for me just didn't really work for the game. It kind of put obstacles in their way that they had to get around, and it's more like, it's a theme park, sure. But my big worry would be the map and the mechanics. I feel like the mechanics are probably going to be
the map, mate.
Great, but the map would be my worry.
Yeah, the map is the kind of overriding thing for me, because it's like, I mean, it kind of plays the same, like we were saying. They put the hop in the second one and stuff like that, and it's like, I mean, obviously they're going to put extra stuff in it, like, you know, you have the fairs where you pick up like 3 or 4 people at a time or something, isn't it, or something like that.
Yeah.
It's just like, you know, sometimes less is more. And like, I feel like in this case with the original Crazy Taxi, less is way more than where they went to afterwards. It's not like I don't even like the other games, but the first game is so perfect.
The other games are decent.
It's just perfect.
But they don't iterate in a positive way. They kind of just tinker and kind of like screw things up a bit. And it's only because the game is so strong that it's still good, even though they've messed a couple of bits up. It would be the way. Yeah. So look, I'd say I am excited about the next one, because it's just
I'm hopeful.
It'll be a cool game. They said, you know, they talked a bit about in the past about how they really want the cities to look realistic, but for you to then be able to do crazy things in it. And the more realistic the city looks, this is the original game, the more realistic the city looks, the more fun it will be to do unrealistic things in the city. And I did read that and thought, yeah, that could be awesome. Like, if with the super high powered graphics we've got now, if they do get it right, I don't know.
Yeah.
There's potential. I don't want to be no. Anyway.
I have hope more than anything, I suppose. And it's like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? If it crashes and burns, I will not be surprised. But it's I mean, at the end of the day, at least we have this.
We have this.
You know what I mean?
We'll always have crazy buttes. Yeah.
We'll have that one. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's the thing.
And yeah, I guess I'm just gonna say, look, I don't want to end on a negative. I'd just say Sega doesn't really have the best form with sequels. That's the only thing. It's sequels and reboots. We sort of said we would do Golden
Dude,
Axe.
Streets of Rage 2.
Yeah, that's right. Give the next Crazy Taxi to Ancient and you'll
That's
be fine. So
That's right. Yes.
just give it to someone else.
That's the thing.
So let's end on a positive. I'm quite hopeful. I'm excited about it, even if it's trash. Even if it's not as good as the original, I still think it will be a lot more fun than a lot of other games that are around.
Yeah.
And so
And we're gonna play it and give it a good going. I think.
Give it a good going over, yeah. And if they can somehow make the soundtrack someone we went and saw in the 90s, so we can gloat about that some more, then happy days. That'd be really good.
Yeah.
I saw a good Pearl Jam gig where we did rather. We say, chuck that in.
Totally. Yeah.
Don't really work, but see how it goes.
Would Jerry Lee Lewis work in Crazy Taxi? I don't know.
I saw Mark Knopfler to see would he be good.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
That's my first
Get out
gig.
of there.
What was
Money for nothing.
Money
It's
for-
like-
Exactly, that works.
yeah. There you are. There's a message there.
So that I feel like we've done a beautiful game at partial justice by I hope it's come across how much we absolutely adore this game. It truly is in our absolute all-time Hall of Fame top ones.
Yeah.
So I think even that's enough to get me excited about the next one. And talking of next ones, where are we going next with the book club?
So, we are heading back to the 16-bit era for a beautiful game known as Revenge of Shinobi. So, talking about ancient, even though it's not ancient, it is Yuzo Koshiro involved. So, yeah, it's going to be strong stuff. So, yeah, we are heading to Revenge of Shinobi.
Where he cut his teeth in a way, probably the thing that made his name. Is that fair to say? Because it was
he had it on the title screen, so he certainly stamped his mark on it. So.
It's an absolute beaut, and it's one that I put down for a long time actually, because I didn't own it when I had a Mega Drive in the first place. I kind of picked it up much later. Like obviously, you played it back in the day, but didn't get any good at it, and it's quite a toughie. You probably did need to own it to get far.
It ain't easy. That maze. Mate, you got to know your way around that thing. And I did have it memorized at one point, but and I somehow figured it out. Very good. But we'll get to that on the episode.
Yes, all those puns and more in the next episode.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, then I suppose, with all that being said, well, this has been great.
Oh, it's happening. Thanks for that. See you later.